Hey everybody, this is GTR2 and not AMS1. So, what has happened? What have I done over Christmas to land in the seat of a Lister storm at Imola? Well, let me explain that. Every year, a couple of times, I have a chat with Iron Wolf. And if you're a bit into GTR2, that's a very familiar name because he's mostly responsible for the enhancements plugin that he's been working on for like 5-6 years, which brought VR to the game using a Vulkan wrapper, I think, but I'm pretty soon no longer understand all the stuff that he's done, and he's decoupled. You can enable that physics from the graphics sort of thread, and it's wizardy off the top shelf. And I thanked him a while ago, together with Morten and some other people who worked on the VR stuff as well for AMS1. So these crew chief people, that's sort of what they are part of, although this is again mostly from Iron Wolf. They are mad scientist wizards. And they keep these older games alive, and I must say I'm quite pleasantly surprised. Anyway, so I was talking to Iron Wolf a bit, and he was mentioning he was trying to get Leo FFB to work in GTR2. And Leo FFB, now if you're a bit of a fossil like me, you remember that from way back in R-Factor 1. It was a 4C-back plugin, eventually I'd say bettered by Real Feel. But Leo, of course, Leo Bodner, one of the first people to make a direct drive 4C back wheel work. He did some plugin stuff, and Iron Wolf was trying to port it to GTR2, but had some questions about physics, and I was telling him, you know, Leo is one of those mad scientists as well, but I think we can do better than that plugin. If you want to do something for GTR2, and here a couple days later, we are using this new 4C back plugin, part of the enhancements plugin for GTR2, currently not out yet, but soon. I will leave a link to the crew chief forum in the description, you can check that out, and eventually, I don't know if we'll set this video live when the first version is released, probably that makes the most sense, so check the link in the description. So I went into my spreadsheet, which is the place I'm most comfortable. Oh, that's grass. Looking at what we could do with the existing like channels in GTR2 to make better, more physics-based, probably more physics-based 4C back than the default GTR2 4C back. And there were ways to do this, because one of the things that's missing in GTR2 is pneumatic trail. And I will also leave a link in the description to a very long video I once made discussing all the parameters that decide on the 4C back that you feel in a real car in a game. And pneumatic trail is one of the most important things, but it is missing in GTR2. They only added it poorly in R-Factor 1, and then guess which game improved it a little bit? AMS1. But there are ways to sort of add pneumatic trail and use it properly for force feedback calculations, even when it's not there, because we do have access to enough physics stuff to calculate a pneumatic trail. So we have better self-aligning torque on the tires. That actually comes from the grip of the tires. And I must say, it's quite informative. Well, maybe a little vague of center, but I also think that is partly the tires on this default content Lister Storm from GTR2, that they are a little bit floaty, and that means the 4C back is also a little bit unresponsive. So it is not quite the real feel that you get in AMS1, because that looks at the steering rack forces, and it gives you all sorts of subtle effects, also some maybe that you don't want, but like the gyroscopic resistance from the fast spinning tires. But the steering arm force is also not in GTR2, so we couldn't use that. But there are also downsides when using the steering arm force, because you need proper suspension geometry. And since GTR2 never relied on proper suspension geometry for the force feedback, there is no telling what happens if you then, if it was available, if you then use the steering rack force. Because maybe not all mods and not all cars in the game have proper suspension geometry, and maybe that feels really strange. So the plugin I helped develop here doesn't rely on super accurate suspension geometry. So what it does is it looks at the tire forces, and amazingly, I was about to say surprisingly, but that's not really a surprise, because Iron Wolf went digging and he found the longitudinal tire forces as well. So we have the lateral tire forces and the longitudinal tire forces, and enough info about the slip of the tire to compute a proper pneumatic trail. So what you do is there is a parameter for the scrub radius that you can enter, and also a parameter you can enter for the trail of the suspension. And that's not too bad, because in real life these stay sort of constant. Even if you use complicated suspension geometry physics, these parameters stay fairly constant, so they are constant here. And then we look at the actual tire forces and how they would combine the lateral and longitudinal forces, self-aligning torque, and with a bit of scaling and a magic parameter, there is force feedback. And I've not explained that properly at all, but don't worry. For those interested, I will also make a little video with the spreadsheet that will be public. You can play around with and get sort of an idea of what the numbers do. So it's physics based and it feels really sort of intuitive, and I must say, so does the game. It's of course quite old, and I think I would do the tires and the stuff a bit differently, but I'm driving intuitively and having control of the car, and it steers sort of a little bit with the throttle, a lot of grip, but a really nice feeling. I made the default setup a bit more oversteery on this Lister Storm. And I made the brakes a little bit stronger. That's the only cheat that I applied. Because you know I don't like brakes that you can just use 100%. So these ones are stronger. I have to be careful about lockups. And it feels surprisingly nice to drive actually, and I must say, maybe it's also Iron Wolf's work at the graphics. It looks sharp. Smooth. No triple screen. Maybe that will come at some point. So it's a lot of fun to drive actually. And at 144, this would have given me pole easily. I think the quickest Lister Storm in 2004 did a 48, so it's a bit fast. In a way, it is quite nice to have the force feedback sort of decoupled from the actual physics and the geometry to some extent, so we do use the tire forces properly, but you can also tweak the numbers, for example, to give you more of a pronounced drop off as you get understeer, or maybe you want the opposite, you want the force to stay more constant as you get understeer. You can tweak that without affecting the physics, and of course in real life you can only tweak those by changing the suspension geometry, which will also change the feel of the car. So there are definitely some pros to doing it like that, plus it should work pretty well for all vehicles in the mods for this game. Because suspension geometry is quite tricky, and it's quite understandable that not all modders understand it well enough to make a good suspension, so I hope this is quite universal. Feels like there's endless grip, so I should go a bit faster. But it's surprisingly intuitive to drive now. Too easy, probably too much grip, sure. But when did this game come out? 2000? When? Don't even know. Long time ago. Ooh. It's a lot of grip, but you do feel that if you manage to make a big moment, it will be tricky, but you can use full throttle quite easily a lot of the time. But I can drive it purely by feel, really, reacting to what the car is doing. And yeah, it's a real pleasant surprise. I think, ooh, I'm officially not slow. I like that. Oh, and we mess it up. See? Snappy there, because there's so much grip, then when it goes pretty hard. Yeah, this is surprisingly drivable and fun. And of course, back in the day, the force feedback probably wasn't as good, and there were definitely no direct drive wheels, and the ones that may have existed were out of reach for like normal players. But it feels like a grown-up sim. It's really impressive. And I'm sure some mods are better, and it's still like the first half of rFactor 1, or maybe actually the first 75% of rFactor 1 and AMS 1 is already in this physics engine. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. But force feedback is of course hugely important to have a feel for the cars and the slip. So with this plugin, I think we're making a nice step. So I think I'll do a couple more quick laps. And there will also be a video where I explain what the parameters do if you want to try that out. So it's been real fun to implement this, have a bit of fun in a spreadsheet trying to come up with a way to get good force feedback from the available channels and work with Iron Wolf a bit. And I'll play the game a little bit. Yeah. So if you still play GTR2, maybe this is interesting and maybe you want to try this force feedback, see what you think. I've not tried the original force feedback, so maybe it's not better at all. But by not trying that, I'm not finding that out, so I can just pretend this one is definitely the better force feedback. Start pushing it a bit. So there's more grip than you think, or than you believe. It's a little arcadey, I would say. Completely forgivable. GTR1 was too difficult. Oh, did I manage? No, still not spinning, but there goes my split. One more lap. It's that one more lap type of game. Which is great. Richard Burns Rally. Yeah, I'm pushing it a bit too hard now, but it's nice that you can. Oh, well, it's bound to happen. I am thoroughly enjoying this, and of course there is a, yeah, you sort of forgive the older games a bit more than the new releases, so it's not. I think that's fair, kinda, you know. This is, well, we still haven't remembered from what year this is, 2007? I don't know. But it's a well-made game, actually, and this car drives quite well. But very easily, like 6-7 seconds quicker than it did qualifying in real life for this race for the 2004. So, yeah, lots of grip. So you just drive it. Initially I drove it to the limit that I felt it should have, but then I kept pushing harder and it would accept full throttle earlier. So that does make the driving a bit binary. You can throw it in and you can brake hard and accelerate hard, but I think that can be forgiven. So yeah, if you're already aware of GTR2 and the enhancement stuff that Iron Wolf and others are mainly Iron Wolf are doing to it, then this will be hopefully something you enjoy trying. Of course you don't have to use this varsity back, but maybe it's something you will enjoy using. Gives you maybe a bit better feel of connection with the physics. If you think GTR2, what the heck's that about? Well, it's available on Steam for not a lot of money at all. In fact, you can get the sort of the mega pack, Simbin mega pack for a few bucks, and you get a lot of gameplay with that. I would suggest looking at that, and link in the description to the crew chief forum for more information and where you can get this enhancement stuff and play around with it. Of course, it's an old game, you do need to tweak some INI files and look at stuff like that. There is a manual and stuff, so it's mainly for boomers, is what I'm saying really, but maybe that's also insulting to the younger people who are able to read, so apologies to you. And like I said, there should be a video as well when we release this with a bit of explanation what all the parameters do. There aren't that many parameters. And of course Lister Storm, like a big V12, British small manufacturer, big British car, Dodge Viper V10, Ferraris mid-engine, rear engine Porsches. I don't think they had traction control and ABS, pretty raw cars, some had sequential, some had H pattern. I think this one still had H pattern, but I'm not sure if that's true in 2004. So on the whole, fun cars as well compared to like the sort of stale GT3 cars of today. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Again, more information about this crew chief enhancements wizardy that is unimaginably cool in the description. And watch that video where I go into the details of how to set things up. Thanks for watching guys. See you later. Bye. Bye.